Hello and welcome to another review of a film that I've seen on Mubi. This time I'm reviewing the film Hold Me Tight, directed by Matthieu Amalric. Okay, I have some major issues with this film. About 30 minutes in, I thought, where's the hook in this film? It's just not engaging me in it. And by the time it finished at 97 minutes, I still wasn't engaged. I really found this film problematic in a number of ways. It's a film about a woman coming to terms with losing her husband and two children. And I guess how you view this film will depend on your attitude to grief. Now, I've got a very good friend who told me once that he thought that birth and death are equivalent and that there's no such thing as loss. And these are quite challenging ideas, but as I've experienced the death of some family members and friends, I've experimented with this idea. Now, I totally accept that people deal with grief in their own way, and that someone with a different attitude to grief than me may get a lot from this film, may even find it helpful. But for me, the problem with this film is it just wallows in grief. The whole film is her grieving the loss of her family. Now, the basic idea is quite interesting that because I do kind of believe that once someone dies, they continue to live on inside of us. And so, through her imagination and her feelings, she's able to carry on their lives within her. And the one interesting angle that the film has is that the way she grieves is to focus on how they would be getting over her not being there if they were still alive. And in itself, this is quite an interesting idea, but I feel it never goes beyond this basic idea. This is the idea that just persists throughout the whole film, and it all just feels quite predictable. As an example, there's a long extended scene where she's looking through a window at her daughter playing the piano. And I'm just not sure what I'm meant to feel. I wasn't drawn in enough to engage with her emotions that I was in any way. I mean, the film definitely isn't sentimental, so it doesn't pull you in by using sentiment, but we're just watching her grieve, and I just found this scene long and tedious, really. And I found the way in which this story developed just absurd, that in order to be free from them, in order to get over her grief, she had to kind of create the destruction of the relationships with them. And this just, to me, this just really doesn't seem like a healthy way of grieving. Now, as I say, depending on your attitude towards the grieving process, it's possible that you may really like this film, but for me, it just didn't work. Vicky Krieps is absolutely amazing actress, I think, and she plays the part really well. So the grief is very real. It's not a problem in terms of the realism. But yeah, it just really didn't work for me. Now, there were things about this film that I did like. I really liked the way it was put together. It was ambiguous and it was confusing, but by the end, it does come together. It's like we just have fragments pieced together in quite an interesting way. I do think the film is technically put together in an interesting way. We don't know what's real and we don't know what's fantasy, and I really liked that. And at the end, it's still not 100% certain, even though it all fits together. There were little touches that I really liked, like there's one scene where she sees her daughter looking at a poster for a Robert Bechtel exhibition, and I didn't know Robert Bechtel's work, but I just Googled it, and he did photorealist paintings. And of course, a photorealist painting looks real, but it's not real. And I thought this was quite interesting because the images in her head were very real, but of course they weren't real. And so I thought the poster kind of captured something of what the whole film was about. I really liked the kind of quirkiness of the way that the daughter becomes the famous pianist that she sees on the TV, even to the extent of her hair going grey. I thought this was a really nice touch. And the score for the film is often the daughter playing the piano, and I think this works really effectively. There were other little touches that I really liked, like the adolescent children having different names, that this was the way she detached from them. As I say, I find the idea an absurd way of dealing with grief, but the idea was quite interesting, and the names, I noticed at the end that the names of the actors were the different names of the adolescent children. I also liked the fact that we saw the same scene at breakfast played out twice, and I'm presuming that once was imagined and once was real, but I'm not really sure on which one was which, and I liked that. And finally, I thought there was a real sense of how time goes slowly with loneliness, and I think the acting was a part of this. Vicky plays this part so well. So overall, I thought the film felt quite predictable once I kind of realised what was going on. I quite like the way the film is made. The cinematography is good. It looks like a French art house movie, but the substance just isn't there. And I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's style over substance, because this film has a lot of grief in it, so there is substance, but there's style, and then just the only substance being deep grief. If you've been through grief, you may relate to the film and really appreciate it. For me, having grieved the death of some loved ones, I've done it in a very different way. And I found this film just so weighed down with grief, with no relief, that it just didn't work for me. Next, I'm reviewing the film That Kind of Summer, directed by Denis Cote. See you next time.